at night at second base.
Can you believe this ball game at Shea?
Oh, brother.
So the winning run is at second base with 2 out, 3-2 to Mookie Wilson. Little roller up along first, behind the bag. It gets through Buckner. Here comes Knight, and the Mets win it.
What's up, everyone? How's it going? Today is August 4th of 2022, and in today's video we're going to discuss the numerology and some synchronicity surrounding the death of Vin Scully, the longtime commentator of the Los Angeles Dodgers, even the Brooklyn Dodgers. This guy was a commentator for 67 seasons and was really the final of the old classic broadcasters. So at the age of 94, Vin Scully passed away back on August 2nd. So shout out to everybody in the chat. I'll talk a little bit about the website as we go on. Big updates coming for that, for sure. I would apologize to any Red Sox fans who are watching this video had you not won 4 World Series since the Bill Buckner era. Of course, we in Milwaukee are still waiting for one. Hell, still waiting for an appearance since that era. Nonetheless, Vin Scully passing away at the age of 94. Now, earlier this year, most of these posts are going to be linked down in the description below, but we're going to talk about how this connects to Jackie Robinson Day. Of course, Vin Scully, the voice of the Dodgers, which is the team that Jackie Robinson began playing for back in the 40s, the man who broke the color barrier. As with anything located in the city of Los Angeles, we'll also talk about how this is connected to the Metonic cycle, which is the most significant cycle, I believe, connected to the moon, as the numerology of the city of Los Angeles is completely encoded with this numerology. Back in 2020, during the pandemic-shortened MLB season, Jackie Robinson Day, which is usually April 15th, by virtue of that being the date that Jackie Robinson made his Major League debut, in 2020, it fell on the date August 28th. And on Jackie Robinson Day in 2020, the actor who played Jackie Robinson in the film 42, Chadwick Boseman, passed away. This is a 2013 film based on Jackie Robinson and his career in the big leagues. So we're going to see a number of connections to these events. And we're also going to see how this ties into a larger Brooklyn riddle that I began documenting in April with the death of Gilbert Gottfried on the same day as a mass casualty event on a subway train in Brooklyn. So let's get started with this. Vin Scully passing away on August 2nd. Back in 2016, Scully announced that it would be his last season before the season began. His final game was broadcast on October 2nd, the Dodgers against the San Francisco Giants. Measuring from that date to his death was exactly 70 months. You'll see Vin's last game down to the date he died. He died exactly 70 months after his final game. On the date he died, the Dodgers defeated the Giants. Trying to get my numbers a little bigger here. And notice how in the standard alphabetic order, the word Giants sums to 70. And interestingly enough, the same day that Vin Scully died, the Dodgers also played the Giants. Now, 70 is a significant number to Vin Scully. Check out the gematria of his last name, Scully. Notice how this also sums to 70. In the reverse alphabetic order. And once again, we're going to look at how this connects to the Metonic cycle. In gematria, the Metonic cycle sums to 70 in standard reduction. Well, with their victory over the Giants on the date that Vin died, the Dodgers won their 70th game of the season. LA once again having a magnificent season, well over 500. In fact, well over like 670 for their winning percentage. But I want you to notice how many losses they had after Tuesday's game as well. The Dodgers finishing the game with 33 losses. In the standard alphabetic order, where once again, the letter A is worth 1, B is 2, C is 3, all the way through Z is 26, a cipher called Simple English Gematria. The name Vin Scully sums to 137. And 137, you'll see here, is the 33rd prime number. This year's MLB season is a little bit shortened, although it will be the full 162 games. Because of the short strike, this season began on April 7th. And notice how if you measure from April 7th to the date that Vin Scully died, it was 117 days. Using the standard reverse alphabetic order, where Z is assigned 1, Y is 2, all the way through A is 26, the word Dodgers sums to 117. If you were to include the end date, measuring from the beginning of the season to Scully's death, you also get 118 days. And this is an important number to Los Angeles, California, where Scully broadcast most of his games. Notice how Los Angeles, California sums to 118. This year's World Series will be the 118th in the history of Major League Baseball. And also consider how Los Angeles sits on the 118th meridian as far as its coordinates. For the record, this is another number connected to the Metonic cycle, 118. Notice how Metonic cycle sums to 1108. And don't worry, I will explain how this cycle is connected to the death of Vin Scully by the end of the video here. So when Scully began broadcasting for the Dodgers in 1950, Jackie Robinson was still playing with the Dodgers. He began in Brooklyn, followed the team over to Los Angeles. Actually, I think Los Angeles moved 2 years after Jackie Robinson was done playing. Now, earlier this year, I made this post talking about huge Jackie Robinson alignments for 2022. And this all had to do with the fact that this season, 2022, is the 76th season of integrated baseball from 1947 through 2022. And notice how in reduction gematria, Jackie Robinson Day sums to 76. Robinson came from the Negro Leagues. The word Negro equals 76. When Jackie Robinson made his Major League debut, breaking the color barrier, it was on a date with 76 numerology. The man who played Jackie Robinson in the film 42, Chadwick Boseman, was born in the year 76. And he would go on to die on August 28th of 2020, which was also a date with 76 numerology. So I noted all these alignments and how interesting they were connected to Chadwick Boseman. And after that, a few days later, we got a news story where a murdered woman in Queens was found dead on Jackie Robinson Parkway. And this was a story I already had made a post about because it was entirely by the numbers and it appeared to be a fake news story. So most of these, again, linked down below in the description. So the point here is that there's been something big going on with Jackie Robinson all year. Notice how Chadwick Boseman, the man who played Jackie Robinson, was born on November 29th. Well, that happens to be the same birthday as Vin Scully. Both of these men born on the same date. On top of that, notice how the name Vincent Edward Scully syncs up with Chadwick Aaron Boseman. Both of these men's full names share 81, 90, and 18 gematria with the zeros dropped. On top of that, the name Vince Scully matches Jackie Robinson. Vin Scully also matches Robinson. And a big number here is 106. Robinson was the first black player in the major leagues. Black player and black both sum to 106 in the ordinal methods. The date that Vin Scully retired in 2016 is also pretty significant. Let me find his retirement here. Notice how it was January 31st of 2016 when Vin Scully announced his retirement, several months before the season, even a few months after the last season. So why this date? Well, Jackie Robinson was born on January 31st. When he made his Major League debut, he was exactly 10,301 days old, numbers with the same digits as his birthday. The actor who played Jackie Robinson is named Chadwick Boseman, which sums to 131 in the alphabetic order. On top of this, Robinson's middle name, Roosevelt, also has this 131 value. So obviously this connects to Jackie Robinson's birthday. Well, what about the year he was born? 1919. For those of you interested in more connections about Los Angeles and the Metonic cycle, one of the best examples is the Griffith Observatory. This was named after Griffith Jenkins Griffith, and this man is completely coded with numerology of the Metonic cycle. Notice how he died in the year 1919, which is the same year that Jackie Robinson was born. Now, the number 19 is really the big key here. This brings us to the Metonic cycle, which is a period of 19 years that syncs up almost perfectly with 235 synodic months, or lunar phases. So consider how the city of Los Angeles has gematria of 109, which in numerology represents the number 19. City of Los Angeles, actually the city of Los Angeles, also has this 1009 gematria in the Latin or Jewish method. Consider also how this year, Los Angeles, the Dodgers specifically, hosted the All-Star Game. The All-Star Game, and that sums to 109 as well. Now, the date of the All-Star Game this year was pretty significant to Los Angeles. It was held on July 19th, which internationally is written 19/7, which is a lot like the number 197. Well, the reason this number is big to Atlanta is Los Angeles, is because Los Angeles, California sums to 197 in the alphabetic order. 197 is the reversed gematria of Metonic cycle, 197. The Metonic cycle is 19 years long. 19 years equals 197. In those 19 years, 7 of them have a 13th lunar month. And when you write out 13th month, it sums to 197. Another reason I think this connects to the greatest of all time riddle, I should have mentioned this at the beginning of the video. My last video on my YouTube channel talks about Bill Russell and Ric Flair. And I talked about how Bill Russell is recognized as the greatest NBA basketball player of all time. And judging by number of championships won, he is. He's won 11 of them. On the same day that Bill Russell died, Ric Flair had his last retirement match. Ric Flair, the winningest pro wrestler in the history of the sport, with 16 world championships. Now, in football, the greatest of all time is considered to be Tom Brady with his 7 Super Bowl championships. Well, on the date that Vin Scully died, actually the date that we learned of Scully's death, that was Tom Brady's 45th birthday, another greatest of all time. And how many people have called Vin Scully the greatest baseball commentator of all time? So there's a clear GOAT theme going on here. I'm sure there's something more astrologically that I haven't touched on yet. But it was Tom Brady's 45th birthday when Scully's death was announced. And this 197 is the 45th prime. So, and of course, Brady from California. So a lot more connections there. Now, if you measure from this year's Jackie Robinson Day on April 15th to the death of Vin Scully, notice how it was exactly 109 days, which matches Los Angeles, All-Star Game, even Jackie Robinson's full name with the S exception sums to 109. Back in early 2021, Dodgers legend Tommy Lasorda passed away on January 7th. And interestingly enough, this happened just 4 days after Vin Scully's wife died on January 3rd. We'll talk about that date. But I thought it was interesting that Tommy Lasorda, measuring from his death to the death of Chadwick Boseman, who played Jackie Robinson, was exactly 19 weeks. Measuring from the death of Vin Scully's wife to his death was a span of exactly 19 months. And his wife even died on the date 1/3/21, January 3rd of the year 21. In numerology, this is the number 1321, which is the English gematria of the Metonic cycle. 1321. So, once again, Jackie Robinson was born in the year 1919. Notice how, in the Latin method, the name Robinson equals 361, which, intriguingly enough, is 19 squared. So if you multiply 19 times 19, you get the gematria of Robinson's name, 361. Earlier this year, I talked about this connection with the death of Gilbert Gottfried. And I did a big long post on Gilbert. And here I mentioned, too, the name Gottfried equals 361, which is 19 squared. And Gilbert Gottfried was 67 years old, which is the 19th prime number. So you'll see 67, the 19th prime. A lot of people speculated when Godfrey died that it was actually the CV-19 VAXX that killed him off, because Gilbert Gottfried had been promoting the vaccine in previous videos. Measuring from the date that the World Health Organization declared a COVID pandemic to the date of Gilbert Gottfried's death was exactly a span of 109 weeks. And remember, the virus is called CV-19. So again, the number 19, very relevant to this. And as I pointed out earlier, Gilbert Gottfried died on the same date as this subway attack in Brooklyn, New York. And of course, Brooklyn, New York is where Gilbert Gottfried was born in and died in. I think it's funny that they updated these to New York City, whereas we know it was the borough of New York, or Brooklyn, that he died in. So he was, again, 67 years old, which is the 19th prime number. A couple years before the death of Gilbert Gottfried, I talked about the death of an actor named Godfrey Gao, this guy here. And Godfrey Gao died a span of 67 days after his birthday, a name that's very similar to Gilbert Gottfried. Also, he died in the year 19. What really brings this together, though, is that Godfrey Gao was Taiwanese. This man was considered to be the first Asian American male supermodel, and he was from Taiwan. Well, on the same day that we learned about the death of Vin Scully, Nancy Pelosi, the Speaker of the House, visited the nation of Taiwan in a very controversial visit that upset China, allegedly. Of course, that's if you think China and the Democrats are very different from one another. And I thought, what are the odds of this? You know, a big story about Taiwan in the same day that we have this connection to a Taiwanese actor, Godfrey Gao. Granted, it's a little bit of a roundabout connection, but I thought it was pretty interesting, especially considering that Godfrey Gao was born on September 22nd. September 22nd is the same birthday as Tommy Lasorda, the legendary Dodgers manager who coached the team for 31 seasons, won some World Series in the 80s with the Dodgers. Definitely connected to this whole thing as well. Notice how the name Gottfried, I think it's prime numbers. Nope, it was a different cipher, but his name has 223 gematria. There it is, Gilbert, summing to 223. And this is a significant number to Brooklyn, New York. Brooklyn, New York equals 223 in ordinal. Notice how in the alphabetic order, Brooklyn alone sums to 112. Measuring from the death of Gilbert Gottfried to the death of Vin Scully, gives us exactly 112 days. Another piece of this Metonic cycle riddle, which I failed to update my post with, but I wanted to show you this as well. The last time the Dodgers won the World Series was on October 27th of 2020. And think about that date, 10/27. The number 127 is the gematria of Metonic cycle, once again connecting to the Dodgers. And the Metonic cycle is a period of not just 19 years, but also 235 lunations. And measuring from the death of Chadwick Boseman to the death of Vin Scully is exactly 23 months and 5 days. So as usual, a lot to unpack here, but definitely connected to Jackie Robinson and Jackie Robinson Day. For anyone who's doubting that there are supreme astrological riddles with the Dodgers, think back to the year 2017, when two Dodger players at the time, Justin Turner and Yasiel Puig, literally reenacted a solar eclipse. And this is one of the most bizarre things I've ever seen in sports. Just want to watch this real quick. Here's Justin Turner playing the role of the sun. Here comes Yasiel Puig. Oh, it's a blackout, total eclipse, and now he's gone. I mean, this is some weird stuff. Justin Turner wearing the cross around his neck. Remember, it's believed that Jesus died under an eclipse or during crucifixion darkness when the sky fell dark. Justin Turner is also the same player who got pulled from World Series Game 6 when the Dodgers clinched the World Series. And the reason he was pulled is because of the CV19 bug. He was diagnosed positive in the middle of the game and pulled out, which is really ridiculous when you think about it, especially considering he was right back on the field celebrating with the team. But it all connects, and the reason Justin Turner was selected for this, I'm going to call it a ritual here. Check out the gematria of Justin Turner. See how his name sums to 54 in the standard reduction method? That's the same as the word sun. Sun equals 54 in the alphabetic order. I also point out here how Yasiel Puig had full gematria of 223, just like the moon in Hebrew. 223, a major number connected to the moon and the Saros cycle, which is similar to the Metonic cycle, but is more pertinent to eclipses, as eclipses from the same Saros cycle will repeat once every 223 lunar phases. You also have to appreciate how the name Justin, the guy who was playing the sun, his name sums to 93, and the sun is said to be 93 million miles from Earth. His last name, Turner, gives us a 33 and 39, just like Eclipse. 33 and 39. And he was even 3 months and 3 days before his birthday on the date of this video. His birth numerology sums to 137, just like total eclipse. 137. I mean, it's really hard not to look at this stuff and think, like, what a joke these guys are playing on us. But once you understand the numbers, it's actually pretty funny. Also linked in the description below is my post on the number 1331. And in this post, you'll learn why the number 1919 is so significant to astrological riddles. When you write out the number 1331, it has gematria of 1919. Again, the year that Jackie Robinson was born. It's all an eclipse riddle. Think about it. The white sun being turned black by the moon, white, black, it's all connected to racism. And Jackie Robinson, the man who broke the color barrier, the first black man in a white man's game. Notice how color barrier has the same ordinal gematria as solar eclipse, 134 and 190. The year that he debuted to break the color barrier was the year 47. When you write out total eclipse, it sums to 47. Also 70. Remember the 70 from the Metonic cycle riddle. But look what happens when you add the digits of Jackie Robinson's birthday. 1, 31, 19, and 19. It sums to 70. Speaking of the total solar eclipse code, if you measure from the death of Chadwick Boseman, our Jackie Robinson actor, to the death of Vin Scully, look at this, you get exactly 704 days. And in Latin gematria, when you type out total solar eclipse, it equals 704. And for those of you who caught my video on the retirement of Vince McMahon retired exactly 704 months after the assassination of John F. Kennedy, and McMahon's middle name is Kennedy. And I haven't done enough work on this yet, but the assassination of John F. Kennedy is the biggest 1331 eclipse riddle in the history of the world. It's actually pretty glorious. I just haven't done a full decode on it, but that's coming around as soon as work on the website is done. For those of you asking about the website, well, you know, we're running into hiccups, which is something that's going to happen when you have someone like myself developing their first large-scale web application. But we are making a lot of progress. I don't want to give a time frame anymore because things keep coming up and the time it takes to fix it varies. But, you know, if I were to guess, it would be definitely in September where we're going to start it. In fact, I already started handing out some test profiles. So we have a small select group of people testing the calculator, making sure all the bugs are worked out and everything like that. One of my favorite functions here, now granted, this isn't styled yet, but I want to show you guys how easy it is to create new ciphers. So what you see here is 4 different ciphers that I created just on a whim. These are ciphers that are not in the normal calculator, but for people who become members, they'll be able to create a certain number of ciphers based on the membership. So if I want to create a new one, let's just create a random cipher that is called starts at 33. And we'll even put LOL because I feel like this is a cipher that someone would try to come up with. And, you know, I'm very hesitant to put new ciphers on the calculator by default because I have to be convinced that a cipher is likely to be relevant before I'm going to put it on there. But in this case, if you guys want to experiment and do all that, you can do it on your own. So what we're doing here is creating just a regular cipher that doesn't take capital letters into account. Although if you want to, that functionality will be available. So here we have our starts at 33 cipher, and I'm just going to add that. It's going to be a white color, and you'll see it's right there. Well, now when I go back to the calculator and I check my cipher menu, well, look at this. There's the starts at 33 cipher. So we check that, click update, and now I can decode in this cipher. And look at this. 33 equals 508. Well, look where the 33 cipher ends. It ends on 58. Is that a coincidence? Probably. And this is the kind of thing where I'm very cautious about, you know, telling people about new ciphers because, look, you're going to get some numbers. You're going to get new numbers. And after a while, those numbers are eventually going to sync up with others. But I'm not here to lecture anybody on gematria. I don't claim to be the ultimate expert on it. All I'm saying is that some people get a little carried away. You probably know who you all are. But yeah, I mean, if you want to experiment, this is all possible. And of course, this will be in your history table as well. I don't know if you can see that. Got to move it over a little bit. Here, if I take some of these ciphers out, and you'll notice some of these are renamed, but there's the starts at 33. On top of this, we also have the new date grid calculator. And what's cool about this is that you can add a date with this button and add it to this list. So the last 100 dates that you worked with will be here in this window. And you can add these dates to the grid. You can delete them. You can place it in the right or left. A lot of cool functions here. But the coolest part is that it lets you see the day durations all at one time without having to constantly go back and forth and plug different dates in. Of course, the other great feature is the planetary counts. And there's some really cool things in here as well. For instance, Vin Scully, this decode I just did, I want to show you how many lunations old he was. So if we go from the death of Vin Scully back to his birthday, notice how we get exactly 1,171 lunar phases. And this is an exact count here, 0 days. So why is this number significant to the Dodgers? Well, when you write out Dodgers in Gematria, here's a 117, and then also a 72. So you could say it was the first day of his 1172nd lunation, right? So you have the 72 and the 117. I thought that was maybe a little bit of a stretch, so I didn't include it in the decode. But, I mentioned JFK earlier. JFK was a perfect example of a mercurial riddle. And let's just quickly go over what this means. So let's start with the Independence Day of the United States of America. Let's also plug in JFK's birthday, which is already there. Let's just add it again. And then we're also going to add the day he died. JFK dead. Add these dates in the grid, and you're going to see something really interesting. Notice how JFK was born on the United States mercurial birthday, 585 Mercury orbits old. He then died on another mercurial birthday of the United States. This means that when JFK died, he was exactly 193 mercurial years old. 193 is the reverse gematria of John F. Kennedy. 193. And he was assassinated, right? Assassinated, 193. This is the 44th prime number. He won the 44th election. He died exactly 44 years to the day after a solar eclipse that began in Texas. And that solar eclipse was in the year 1919, which on the left side of your screen you see is a big number for eclipses. In Greek isopsophy, the number 778 is the value of eclipse. But check out JFK's birth sign. It's a Gemini, which is ruled by Mercury. So the planet Mercury is relevant to his death. So I don't want to gush too much about this, but this is another layer of decoding that we're going to be able to uncover. And once again, even prove gematria even more to the doubters, the haters, the people who just cannot for the life of them see the numbers. Another part of this that I wanted to mention is the year that JFK was born, 1917. When you write out Mercury, you get a square number gematria value of 1917. How wild is that? So again, I think I've gotten a little too carried away here with demonstrating the new calculator. We're still a little bit a ways away from it being ready for the public, but we're getting there. Again, testing has begun. A few things to rework, but we're close. All right, everyone. Thanks to all who jumped in the live chat. Peace, love, God bless, and we'll talk to you next time. See ya.